guys, today I'll be talking about evolution of the brain and behavior. And we're going to start with why should we study other species? So, just for starters, we know species evolve to develop ecological niches. So, that means that as things become more accustomed to their environment, they use their body more efficiently, in a way, to function in their environment. So, why should we study a particular species? We have outstanding figures for the species. For example, bees. They move in colonies, they work the hive, they move very fast in the air, very accurate with movement and stuff like that. These are outstanding features. That's why we would study them. Another reason why is through convenience. We study some species through convenience, such as rats, because they have a fast germination time. They breed really quickly, and they're inexpensive to maintain. They're not endangered, and we have things like flies that reproduce super fast. They have germination speeds of a few days. Another reason why we study particular species is because they're easily compared to other things. For example, chimpanzees are closely related to us, so we compare and contrast what happens to them with us. Another thing is preservation. Studies of rare or endangered species conducted in the fields or zoos can help set priorities and assess options for the conservation of biodiversity. Next, we have economic importance. Things like our autotrophs that make our food, cattle that also provide food, and they're predators. We need to study those in order to stay alive. Treatment of diseases kind of goes with economic importance just a little bit if you're talking about plants. And let's side note for a little bit. Evolution. These two guys are comparable on some sort of level. Owl monkeys use their eyes to maximize the amount of light intake at night so they can see better at night. Howler monkeys, however, have different eyes. Their eyes are better used in the daytime. Alright, let's keep this rolling. Actually, yeah, we're good. So, there's also something that we have that complicates lives. So, complicated lives require complicated brains. This whole paragraph talks about larger brains or larger cerebral cortexes, mainly frontal lobes, provide more complicated lives and complicated brains. For example, birds drop nuts in the middle of the street and wait for cars to run them over. That's because they have a bigger forebrain. They understand and they learn. Another thing too, there's sexual selection again for large HVCs for bird calls. So basically, women or female birds choose who to sexually reproduce with based off of how big their mating call is. Speaking of size of various things, we're going to go back to the brain, hop back to the brain. This S1 this S1 lobe in a rat is much bigger than the S1 lobe in a squirrel. The reason why? The rat uses this S1 lobe much more than a squirrel. A squirrel uses more of an occipital lobe than the rat. The rat relies on scent, not really a thing for the squirrel. Platypus just uses sensors on its nostril to find stuff in the water and eat food. Let's keep on moving on. By the way, vertebrates have better neural systems or more complex neural systems than invertebrates. Alright, let's keep on moving. All vertebrates share the same basic structure. So, based off of what I just said down here, we're going to move over to this figure. This really shows what that concept is. You have the common ancestor with blue, green, and purple cortexes. And as you move up through history, notice how all of these things have green, blue, and purple in some sort of shape and size. Alright. let's keep on going. All vertebrate nervous systems share certain main features but differ in others. Alright, there's about 6 of these. Let's bang them all out and show what nervous systems are all about. I rhymed. Alright, so first off we got development of a hollow dorsal neurotube. Basically, they all form through the same kind of way. Brains form through the same kind of neural tube. Bilateral symmetry, the brains are split right down the middle. Corpus callosum, left, right. Segmentation, pairs of spinal cords. No, my bad. Pairs of spinal nerves extend from each level of the spinal cord, so that's where you get your nerves coming out of your spinal cord on both sides. Hierarchical control, think of the brain controlling what happens in the spinal cord. Next on the list, we have separate systems. Think of CNS, central nervous system, and PNS, peripheral nervous system. We have next localization of function. Certain functions are controlled by certain locations in the central nervous system, which is the brain. So let's keep this rolling. The evolution of vertebrate brains reflects changes in behavior. So in the present day, we use things called endocasts to see how big fossil brains were, or brains of things that are now fossils were back in the day. Let's keep this rolling. Fun fact, I'm actually going to take another step forward and really emphasize this because I love dinosaurs. Dinosaurs did not have walnut-sized brains. They had about 700 grams worth of brain, which is about half of what we have for brain weight. So, I'm just throwing it out there because I'm a big dinosaur geek. Alright, let's talk about... What do we need to talk about? Linear regression. So here we have, through evolution, vertebrate brains have changed in both size and organization. That is obvious. Oh, this is seen here. This is also seen way back here, where they vary in size as evolution carries on. So people try to People try to quantify this through an encephalization factor. The factor is seen here. We deviate actually the most out of all of these species. It's supposed to vary with our body weight. When I say it, I mean the brain is supposed to vary with body weight, and it's supposed to be proportionally related to the body weight. We are the farthest away. We're like 0.70 away. 0.70% away from this slope. Brain size is an adaptation. Basically, as the brains adapt, the medulla proportionally gets smaller as the cortex increases, and the cerebellum kind of varies, but kind of stays the same. Let's hop back over here. Fun fact. All mammals have 6 layered cortexes, and reptiles only have 3 layered cortexes. We're thought to be the descendants of them. I think that's about it. The rest isn't me.